Hey, today folks, what I want to do is just answer some questions that I've been getting about sync licensing. Most of these come from the Discord channel that you can see in the description down below. So without further ado, let's get to some questions you might have and some people have asked me about. So Mark from our Discord channel asked, "Hi Eric, I'm curious to know what would be a good transition plan for those like me who are starting to work with royalty-free stock music libraries. After some experience with stock music, when would be a good time to try out sync licensing? How do we measure our progress and assess if it's a good time? We don't want to try too early and burn bridges." You know, that's a good question, but I think the problem with the question is that you're assuming that there's only good music for stock music and only good music for sync licensing. And the answer is that some music can work in both. So without hearing your music, it's hard for me to know. But let me tell you just from my experience what I have found that works in each one and or both. I started my focus 3 or 4 years ago on sync music, so I only was focused on that. And that meant writing great songs in different kinds of genres, pop, Christmas and holiday type songs, and then some instrumental music that would be useful for different kinds of scenes, behind scenes and things like that. So I purposely focused on that kind of music. When I got into stock music, like I said in my video here, I started with my catalog that I already had, CDs that I had made back in the day, or piano music that I had made, jazz music that I had made, different recordings that I had. And I just went with the very best stuff to try to get in stock libraries. So I started with that kind of stuff in the stock libraries. And I think the key for me to get in libraries like Motion Array was to use very highly produced stuff. And that means I didn't engineer and mix every single thing. Sure, the piano stuff I did, but the jazz stuff I had mixed by a Grammy-winning engineer, so I kind of cheated. But you know what? You have to use the very highest quality you can get. So I didn't start in stock music and then move into sync. I kind of went the other way. I was writing stuff for sync libraries and then started putting stuff into stock libraries that I had been maybe writing for myself or for the marketplace or for sync, and use that in stock licensing. As I've said before, I think that you can use stock licensing as a starting ground, and then when you get things signed, you can bring them out into sync licensing if you get them signed there. And someone asked me this question, which kind of goes along with this. What if I have something in stock music libraries and I get it in signed to a sync library? Can I get it out of the stock libraries? And that answer is usually yes, unless you've signed some kind of exclusive deal, which most stock libraries are not exclusive. But if you've signed an exclusive deal with somebody, it's going to be tied there. I know that AudioSparks would rather you not ever take anything out of their catalog, even though they are royalty free and you can use them on other libraries. But most every other library, Pond 5, Audio Jungle, you can take those out within minutes and they're out of their library and you don't have to worry about them. Motion Array, they ask for 30 days if you take a song out of their library. And probably other of the non-exclusive libraries have that same thing where you have to wait a certain amount of time. I think VFine, it took a week or so. Now, as far as when would be a good time, I think any time is a good time. If you have high-end quality music and you find an exclusive library that you want to pitch to, then you should pitch to it. The problem is with sync libraries, they will want a high bar of quality. But I have songs that have been in both and have been signed over to exclusive. So the bar of quality for me is the same. I don't put a lower quality of music into stock music than I put into sync. It's just music that maybe wouldn't be as useful to a TV show or to a movie or to a trailer. As far as how you measure your progress, well, you've got to talk to people. You probably need to show someone who has experience on getting things signed in the exclusive world. And if you want to talk to me about it, I have information below where you can email me and we can talk that way. I understand that you don't want to burn bridges too early with exclusive sync licensing. You don't want to send something to a company and they say no, and then you're like, how do I approach them? But you need to know something. they're not going to say no to you every time. They're always understanding that composers get better, that composers bring different things to them. So unless your quality is super low, you'll likely get another chance with the libraries. But there are lots of libraries to send stuff to. So don't feel that you can't send something to a library now to see if you are of the quality that they're looking for. In other words, the time is always right to go ahead and start experimenting sending your stuff to exclusive sync libraries. Just make sure that you're sending stuff that sounds like what that library already has. I hope that answers your question, Mark. I had another question today that said, "Hi, Eric, I would love to know more about the difference between contributing tracks to a library and working on briefs to provide tracks on demand. I am doing both now, but it is not easy to get into the second group, which I think is more interesting." I personally like contributing to libraries and getting full sets of songs in libraries to writing for briefs. But that's just me, because writing briefs sounds like work to me, because that's what I've been doing for the last 25 years is writing music on demand for clients, both corporate and commercial. And I just would prefer to write the music I want to write at this point in my life and then put it out to the libraries and find people who are interested in that music. Now, that doesn't mean I don't submit to briefs. I just submitted to a brief 2 days ago, and I actually have 5 more to send this month to briefs. So I will do that. And the reason I do that is because that music, whether it gets accepted for the brief or not, can then be used for any use. I could pitch it to somebody else. I could put it into stock music. There's just a lot of possibilities for the stuff you write for briefs. So if you think that way, writing for briefs is a little bit more freeing, because if you write for a brief and they don't accept it, you still have that song to use on a myriad of other things. So writing for briefs for me is helpful, because then I have a deadline, I got to get it done, and when it's done, it's a song that can be used whether the brief accepts it or not. So the difference between submitting tracks to a library and getting an album, let's say, selected at a time, or writing for a brief is the fact that you can really have a little bit more freedom in the tracks that you produce for the library, because you are creating those and then pitching those as an album versus having to submit a specific thing that the brief wants. And so it just depends if you like writing on demand more than you like just creating from your heart and writing the songs that you think are cool and fun and you want to get licensed. So it's really a personal preference thing. Okay, a couple of other questions here. Sammy asked about 20 questions in one question, but I'm going to specifically talk about what is the difference between back royalties and upfront buyouts. Most of the deals, as a matter of fact, all 3 exclusive libraries I've signed to this year are pretty much the same. There is no upfront consideration fee, which means they're not paying me just for sending them the songs and buying them out in any way. They are taking the songs into their library. If they get a use, I will split the upfront with the library, and then I will get the writer's part of the publishing in the back end. All 3 libraries that I've signed with work that way. There likely are TV things that are on cable or stuff that don't pay upfronts but still pay backend that the library might decide to take. And that's the library's decision to do so. But as far as the libraries I'm signed right now, we'll split the upfront and we'll split the PRO. I am sure that there are back-end royalties only deals, and I am sure that there are upfront only deals, but I haven't had the experience with those yet. Sammy also says, what should I look for in contracts? You know, contracts are contracts. Every contract I've signed is different. The difference I've seen with the 3 libraries I've signed with so far is the length of time. One of the libraries is perpetuity. Every contract I've signed with them, every song is signed in perpetuity. And that's because of the company that they are also signed with, which is a big one. The other 2 contracts have a 2-year and a 3-year, I believe, deal. And songs only go into perpetuity if they get used. So if you have 10 songs with a library and 2 get used in the 2 or 3 year time, hopefully more get used, but let's say only 2 get used over that 2-year period that you're signed with them, those songs go into perpetuity, but at the end of that deal, you can pull the other 8 out if you want to. If for some reason you think that library is not doing a good job with your songs, you can at that point pull them out. I think one deal is 2 years and the other one is 3 years before you can do that. But both of them state if any of the songs get used and get a license, then the deal will become a perpetuity deal for that song. So that's something you can look for in contracts with each one of them. I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice. Please consult your lawyer with any contract if you have questions like that. If you want to hear my story on how I got into sync libraries, well, look at this video right here. It kind of tells my story of getting into sync music licensing and how I got into the 3 music libraries this year. Thanks for watching.